Okay, I just got back from seeing The Green Lantern at the midnight showing, so if I sound a little tired in this video, it's probably because I am quite sleepy. Probably as soon as I put this up, I'm going to pass out. But I have to say, with the film, I liked it. It was a good film. I have some complaints, and I should probably get into those first before I do anything else. The CGI, the suit, it was a little distracting. I'm not sure why they spent millions and millions of dollars to make a CGI skin tight suit when we've seen them able to put tight suits on people. Back in the day it was because spandex looks horrible. They found alternatives to spandex and latex. You saw that in Tron Legacy with the suits they made in that film. Even Superman Returns. I know there's people out there, oh my god, don't bring that film up. You have to admit the suit at least was okay. They could have used whatever they used to make that suit. They could have used to make a Green Lantern suit. I'm still not exactly sure why they went for a full CGI suit. A friend of mine said it was because they wanted him to blend in better with the alien planet, which is a full CGI environment, and with the other lanterns, who are essentially completely CGI. Sinestro, I think, is Mark Strong in makeup, but see, I'm sleepy. Uh, it still looked pretty bad because most of the film takes place on Earth. Well, maybe not bad is the word, but it was distracting. I mean, they did put a lot of effort into the suit to try to make it believable, but it was still noticeable, especially when he's on Earth. Even when he's on the other planet, because everyone else, when they're completely CGI'd, they do look better. But the suit itself really wasn't that big. The real big breaker for me with the CGI was the CGI mask, which I'm sure a lot of people are going to talk about, which even kind of made fun of in the film. Well, I think it was more making fun of the look of the mask rather than everything else, but we'll get to that in 1 second. Yeah, the mask looked more fake than everything else, mainly because you're putting it on a face. And the face is probably the most detailed. As a humans, we've evolved to kind of look at the face very closely. So it's very hard to do CGI faces. And putting a big green mask on a face, it's going to stand out. But there was a scene in the movie, bit of a spoiler, when Hal Jordan comes in, he basically does like the Superman thing where he comes with the girl, in this case, Carol Ferris, which is played by Blake Lively, yeah. Uh, as soon as she gets close to him, she's like, "Hal, it's you?" He's like, "How'd you know?" It's like, I've known you all my life. Yeah, you're just because you cover up your cheekbones doesn't mean I cannot tell who you are, which is a good little call out. I mean, it was designed in the let's face it, the costume was designed way back in the day. When this having the little mask thing, people bought it. But it is nice for them to call it out. That it's not the best of disguises. And frankly, that was a good thing because that meant for a lot of the other scenes he didn't have to have the mask on. And as I just said, the green mask is a distraction. Maybe if they did something with the eyes more, they did change his coloring of the eyes a bit, but I don't know. Maybe if they went for pure white, it would have looked a little bit better. I don't know. Well, it wasn't too much luckily because they called out the mask thing kind of early on, or at least early enough. They didn't have to have a whole lot of scenes with him with the mask. Other than that, the plot, there was certainly a lot cut out for pacing reasons. You could kind of tell that the beginning of the film went on a lot longer, and the film's already running fairly long. It's at least 2 hours. Looking for the runtime here. It's 105 minutes. Or maybe it's not. It felt like 2 hours. Just making me wonder if IMDb's a little off there. Especially I'm back at, I guess, it says a little under 2 hours, but still, it felt like 2 hours, and the beginning did, it takes a while for the action to really get going in this film, which is fine, but you could tell that there was more stuff involved at the beginning. Probably more with the fact that the three characters here, Hal Jordan, uh, Carol Ferris, and Hector Hammond, all were supposed to be. They knew each other as kids, and they keep on hinting to stuff as when they were children. So you have a feeling there was like one scene of Hal Jordan as a kid with his father. And tragedy ensues, and even in the credits on IMDb, they have young Hal and young Ferris listed pretty high up in the casting, which kind of tells me that there was a lot more scenes with them filmed. I have a feeling they just deleted them for pacing, which is I can't really fault them too much for that. Pacing is a tough one. I mean, just put as long as they put the stuff back in for the DVD, at least in deleted scenes, it'll be fine. But yeah, be warned on that. The beginning is a little long and it's a little choppy because they cut stuff out. As for the actual threat, I have to admit, with Green Lantern, it is for comic book movies, at least ones that have come out within the past 10 years, this is one I probably know least about the mythos and everything else surrounding it. I didn't even really understand what the whole Green Lantern power was until I saw the movie. Now I understand it. Whatever he can kind of think of it comes in a kind of green form and does what he wants it to do, which is a pretty cool power. But so I'm not sure at all if they butchered the mythos at all. I do know that the one character, Sinestro, he does go evil in the comic books, mainly because people were talking about that on a forum, and he doesn't, well, we might get into some spoiler territories here. He actually doesn't really in this film, except for the post-credits. So I gave you the spoiler warning. There is a bit of it's not at the very end at least. It's one of those, they get through the initial credits, and then there's kind of a mid-credit scene, I guess we can call it, and then they continue with the long credits. So, you do see something with him, but he, other than that scene, he's not a bad guy in this film. He's probably like the most important Lantern after Abin Sur. Abin Sur? I think I'm bad with names. Dies. He takes over. It's kind of like the head Lantern, even though there's not supposed to be a single head. Let's see. The actual villain is kind of cool. It's just like the embodiment of fear, which is the big theme of the film. Fear, overcoming fear. It's not about not having fear. It's about overcoming fear. That's the big difference. That's what courage is. You're afraid, but you overcome the fear and do what you need to do. And that's where your willpower comes from, which is what powers the Green Lantern. It's will. So it's not about not having fear, it's about overcoming fear. Is that enough philosophy for you? Let's see. Performances. Ryan Reynolds is fairly good. He's more toned down than he was in X-Men Origins Wolverine as Deadpool, which I hope they make now. But he does have a bit of a, how should I put it? I think at the beginning he feels a little too Tony Stark. And I think this film's going to be compared a lot with Iron Man, and if they do that, it's going to come out looking worse. Because they have the defense contractor, which is Carol Ferris. She is kind of the heiress to this defense contractor company, which is supposed to be like Boeing, and how they kind of split that element up, where it does feel with that very Iron Man like, but they're not really going for Iron Man, so it looks like a very poor copy of Iron Man, even though I think that's somewhat unintentional. I mean, Hal Jordan always supposed to be a pilot. And I do know from quickly looking at, again, some forums that this Hal Jordan's kind of a mixture of a Hal Jordan and one of the other Green Lanterns. So, who is apparently a little bit more jokey, crazy, not as much straight-laced. Though I must say, the relationship between Hal Jordan and Carol in this one is different than most others in comic book films. And normally, it's either I meet the girl and now I want to be with her. I've had a long crush and we just finally get together now, finally, or we're in an intense relationship and we've broken up, bitterly broken up, and finally we refine and rekindle that love. This probably is one of the most realistic relationships, at least for the 20th century, I've seen in film, where it's two friends, they grew up, they had sex, they stopped that part of the relationship, but they're still friends. Let's face it, there's a lot of people that have done that. You know, I'm not saying too much there, but there are a lot of people that do that. That is a common element in modern day life. Relationships aren't exactly how they are in Hollywood. A lot of people wind up knowing somebody, they hang out for a while, go drinking, and then they, have fun. Or they just kind of know each other, they try it out, and let's go, this real relationship thing's not working out. Let's just go back to being friends. And in films, it's always seen as impossible. And in real life, from my own experience, a lot of people actually can just put that, it was just a fling, we're past it. Friends with benefits. Occasional friends with benefits when we're both in between. And that's really how they play it here. Of course, with elements of his fear, why they didn't last, basically. But I like that as a different pacing for a film, at least with relationship wise. It's good to see something different. It is one thing I think, cinema wise, this film actually does very differently from most other adaptations, or, well, just any type of portrayal. It's either love at first sight, or, the two are forced together, or bitter breakup and then they come back together. This one, they were friends, they had sex, their relationship fizzled out, they're still friends. There's no real tension behind it. I think they both kind of acted very much like how real people in this situation also occurs. I also like Ferris's portrayal in that she's kind of supposed to be torn between being a fighter pilot and then she's also supposed to take over the business. And they kind of specifically go, no, there's no conflict there. Because Hal at points is trying to say, you can't be both a businessman and a pilot. And she goes, yes, I can. I can be a businesswoman. I can do the negotiating, getting the contracts, and I can go out and fly. There's no reason why I can't. And that is also true. It is possible to do two things. Hollywood loves is having one or two attributes, and they have to be pulling at each other. And this is another part of it being very realistic, where you can fly around and you can do the paperwork too. Actually, it's more realistic. I met several pilots. One of my professors at when I did my undergraduate studies was an ex-Navy fighter pilot. Not fighter pilot. He was anti-submarine warfare with his specialty. But he was a pilot. I forget what aircraft carrier he flew off of. And they're very controlled. They do a ton of paperwork. It's not. He actually was working at Top Gun. I think he was their weapons officer at the time. When he was on rotation there, and he was at Top Gun when the movie came out, and he got a very good chuckle out of the film. How unpilot-like the pilots in that film were. I think I went off on a little tangent there, probably because I'm getting tired. That's normally a good sign the review is pretty much over. You can probably tell I'm a lot more subdued. It's been a long day, and at about 15 minutes, I think you've gotten a gist of this film. I do recommend it. It's a fun film. If you absolutely hate CGI, though, stay away, because you will hate this film. And I have no idea, in comparison to the comics, how it works. This is literally the one I've had least exposure to. I read up on how Thor worked, and if you read Marvel comics, that stuff is so intertwined that you can read other people's comics and still have the full gist of how another character works. DC's a little different. DC, everyone's still kind of in their own separate universe, which I wish is what Marvel did, because it makes everybody more special. I'm really going off on tangents now. I need to post this. So that is it for now. Check out the film if you have the money. Signing off.